Yeah, Eddie Hearn and Jake Paul have been going backwards and forwards, aren't they? You know, dissing each other. You know, Jake Paul, he got interviewed by IFL Umar. And he said that, you know, Eddie Hearn is like paying this little bent judge, you know, Glenn Feldman, you know, to make his fighters win on the scorecards. You know, by giving him bribes and, you know, trying to sweeten him up. Like Jake Paul was saying that fucking bent judge, you know, he had Joshua up against Usyk, you know, in the rematch. You know, and we all know Joshua got fucking battered. He had a little bit of success, you know, in the 9th round. You know, he caught Usyk with a right hand, but you know, Usyk, he took it well, didn't he? It didn't bother him at all, did it? But you know, that little bent judge that Jake Paul is claiming Eddie Hearn is bribing, Glenn Feldman, he had Joshua winning, didn't he? And like, you know, Rob Tebbert, you know, he interviewed that little bent judge, you know, and asked him what he was fucking doing, scoring the fight to Joshua.
Glenn Feldman, how did you score that fight for Anthony Joshua, Glenn?
Just the way I did.
How did you score? How did you find 7 rounds in the fight? Just wondering if you could explain how you scored 7 rounds in the fight.
I can't. You'd have to talk to my supervisor.
Of course. I saw it as a very close fight. You understand that boxing is scored round by round, not by the fight as a whole. And those rounds were razor close.
You see that? You know, this little bent judge, he's panicking under pressure. He couldn't even answer the question properly. He had to like ask someone else for help. You know, why is he asking his supervisor for help? Because he knows he's probably taking bribes, you know, from Eddie Hearn. And that's what Jake Paul was referring to, wasn't he? It's a bit suspicious, isn't it? It's like, oh, I need help, you know, I'm under pressure. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to get out of this and try and hide the fact that I'm taking bribes from Eddie Hearn, you know, to favour his fighters on the scorecards. You know, like Joshua. That's how it seems, innit? And you know what else makes it a bit suspicious? You know, Coogan, yeah, he fucking deleted the Jake Paul interview. You know, where Jake Paul was saying that bent judge is being paid off by Eddie Hearn. And like Coogan deleted the video. What do you think of that? Yeah, I'm not into that, you know. I don't like the fact that he's fucking deleting videos, you know, just because someone's having a go at his mate Eddie Hearn. You know what I mean? It's a bit biased, isn't it? You know, being a journalist, you have to be fucking in the middle, man. You have to be objective. You can't be fucking deleting videos just because someone slagged off your little mate. Yeah, it's not on, is it? It's like fucking Coogan's trying to play God, innit? It's like trying to, you know, bend the truth. He's trying to rewrite history, you know, by deleting things that people say that are negative towards Eddie Hearn. It's not on, is it? I'm not into it at all. I like freedom of speech, man. Because, like, you know, these bent judges, you know, we've known about them for years, yeah, but it's got to be spoken about. You know, if they are taking bribes, you know, to favour the promoters' fighters, it's got to be fucking known, man. And Jake Paul speaking out about it, you know, I'm all for it. I used to fucking box and I used to get robbed. You know, these little bent judges. I used to get fucking robbed, innit, in fights where I was getting paid like $1,000. You know, peanuts, fucking silly money. And if you're getting robbed by little corrupt judges who are taking bribes, you know, you're not really going to progress, you know, step up in your career if you're fucking getting losses on your record. It's people's livelihoods, man. It's their bread and butter, innit, boxing. You know, that's all they've got and they're probably not even getting paid a lot. So it's got to be ironed out, man. It's got to be stamped out. And that's what Jake Paul was kind of like. He did it with the UFC, didn't he? You know, Dana White, he was trying to like fucking highlight the fact that these UFC fighters are getting paid peanuts. And they're getting fucking kicked in the face, knee, elbow. They're getting fucked up. And they're getting paid peanuts. You know, Dana White's scamming them, and he's like robbing them. He's shortchanging them. He's not paying them what they deserve, is he? So people like Jake Paul, you know, speaking out about stuff like that, I'm all for it. But you know, Coogan, like, deleting his interview because he fucking had a little go at his mate Eddie Hearn. It's not on, is it? Coogan's trying to play God, man. He shouldn't be fucking trying to censor people and trying to shut them down and silence them and trying to restrict free speech. He shouldn't be fucking doing that, man. Fighters have got bills to pay, but you know, if they're getting robbed by these corrupt judges, You know, it prevents their fucking growth. You remember when Coogan was talking about paying his water bill? Well, fucking fighters have got a water bill as well, and they've got to pay it, innit? So if they're getting robbed by these corrupt judges, it's going to prevent them, you know, from like earning money to pay their fucking bills, man. So you shouldn't be deleting these interviews. I watched the interview with Jake Paul and it was quite good. But now the video has conveniently gone missing off of IFL's page. You know what I mean? So there's a bit of biasness going on, isn't there, from Coogan. He's definitely trying to like prevent Eddie Hearn from being painted, you know, in a bad light. You know, because Eddie Hearn's giving him 500 quid a week. He's trying to desperately hold on to that money, innit, Coogan? So he deleted Jake Paul's interview, didn't he? You know, to protect Eddie Hearn's feelings, because Eddie Hearn was upset about it.
One question I do want to ask you, Ed, is about Jake Paul. You've obviously had your back and forth, but he came out with some fairly strong accusations, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah.
Is that what's the latest? Is that going further from your perspective?
Look, Jake Paul is Jake Paul's good for boxing in many ways, but Jake Paul can also be terrible for boxing, because the fact that he's just found a boxing gym and decided to become a fighter, he doesn't still have the respect for the industry and the history of the sport of boxing. What he said in terms of his allegations of corruption with Glenn Feldman is totally unacceptable. And we all have a laugh with Jake and he's an average fighter. And I'm telling you now, what he said was unacceptable and it will be dealt with.
Yeah, he's really upset Eddie Hearn, hasn't he? He's really got in Eddie Hearn's head, you know what I mean? And that's what Eddie Hearn normally does to other people. You know, like Fish Eyes and Bob Arum and fucking Leonard Ellaby. You know, Eddie Hearn, he normally winds them up, don't he, and gets in their heads. But, you know, Jake Paul, that's what he's done to Eddie Hearn, hasn't he? So what do you think? Like I say, I'm all for it, you know, exposing corruption in boxing. You know, if boxers are getting robbed because of these corrupt judges and fucking promoters, I'm all for speaking out against it. You know what I mean? As opposed to Coogan, like, fucking deleting videos. You know, trying to sweep it under the rug. So what do you think then? What do you think about Eddie Hearn, like, saying he's gonna take it further and Jake Paul's gonna be dealt with? What do you think he means by that? Do you think he's gonna, like, try and take him to court, you know, to try and sue him? I don't think that's a good idea, you know, because, you know, if Eddie Hearn tries to take Jake Paul to court, you know, Jake Paul, he might start talking about Jeffrey Epstein. You know, and Barry Hearn's links to fucking Jeffrey Epstein. You know, Jake Paul, he seems like that kind of guy, you know, who would bring up stuff like that, you know, to try and fucking get his own back on someone who's trying to sue him. Or get him locked up or whatever. He just seems like that kind of guy, don't he, Jake Paul? You know, I'm surprised he hasn't brought up Jeffrey Epstein already, but I think he will do. You know, if Eddie Hearn tries to take him to court, you know, saying Jake Paul will be dealt with. And like, you know, Jake Paul, he's got a bigger following on it. You know, he's got about 21 million followers, you know, on Instagram. Eddie Hearn's got about 1 million followers. So Jake Paul's got the bigger following on it. So, you know, if he starts talking about, you know, fucking Barry Hearn and Jeffrey Epstein and all that, you know, all that little dodgy stuff that they was involved in. You know, Jake Paul's fan base, you know, they'll make memes and they'll fucking be tweeting Eddie Hearn every minute and, you know, dissing him and, you know, calling his dad a bit sexually dodgy and all that, you know, just fucking really putting it on Eddie Hearn. You know, his fan base, they'll go mental, won't they? You know, making TikToks and that. You know, if Jake Paul, like, gets his little followers, you know, to fucking start trolling Eddie Hearn and Barry Hearn. You know, Barry Hearn, he'll have another heart attack, won't he? So Eddie Hearn's probably better off just leaving it, you know, and not taking action, you know, against Jake Paul, saying that he's paying this little fucking bent judge, Glenn Feldman. You know, it's probably not worth it, you know, for Eddie Hearn to open a can of worms, you know, fucking trying to sue Jake Paul. It's probably not worth it, is it? He's got more to lose, man. You know, Jake Paul might get fined a few grand, boy. He's a fucking multi-millionaire, isn't he? So Eddie Hearn, he could come off worse, you know, if he tries to, like, sue Jake Paul. You know, Jake Paul can just dig up a load of dirt, you know, on Eddie Hearn and his dad Barry Hearn. You know, Matchroom, they got a good thing going on, haven't they? They got a few little hands in a few pies. You know, they got the boxing, haven't they? They got the darts. They got the fucking bowling or whatever they got. So poker. Yeah. So there's fucking. If it's not broke, don't fix it, innit? There's no point in trying to take Jake Paul to court, yeah, because he seems like the kind of guy who would happily expose Barry Hearn's little dodgy connections. So it's best for Eddie Hearn to just leave it, man. Because, like, you know, when Jake Paul was having a little backwards and forwards with Dana White, you know, Jake Paul, he started to take the piss out of Dana White's cocaine addiction. You know, with powder all over his nose and, you know, a little fake bald head and, you know, the UFC t-shirt, you know, with the woman. So that's what he's like, innit? You know, that's his forte. So, you know, Eddie Hearn, he's probably better off not really getting involved, you know, in a backwards and forwards with Jake Paul. Like, Jake Paul's already dissed Eddie Hearn's wife, hasn't he? You know, calling her average.
I don't even know where to begin with him, but he's a weasel. He's a snake. He's very two-faced. You know, I think off camera, he's like on your side, like, man, you do well, I love what you're doing, actually, and like, I really respect it, and blah blah blah, and you're gonna take this a long way. And then the cameras come on, and he's like, you're not that good. The way he words it and shit, he's like, oh, you're average. Well, average isn't that bad. Well, Eddie, what if I called your wife average?
Yeah, he's made a fool of Eddie Hearn there, hasn't he? He's had Eddie Hearn's pants down there, and he's fucking made a fool of him. You know, calling his wife average. That's what I mean, man. Eddie Hearn, he can't really go fucking toe-to-toe with Jake Paul. You know, Eddie Hearn, he's, you know, he has a bit of banter with Coogan, don't he? You know, and he calls Coogan a prick. You know, but he can get away with that with Coogan, because Coogan's a bit slow, innit? But, you know, Jake Paul, he's quite sharp. He's quite fucking fast. Do you know what I mean? Eddie Hearn's a good talker as well, but he's just got too many skeletons in his closet, you know, with his dad having links to Jeffrey Epstein, so he's probably not worth going down that fucking route, you know, of trying to take further action against Jake Paul for saying that he bribes judges so his fighters win fights. You know, it's not worth it, is it? So Eddie Hearn, he can't compete with Jake Paul, so it's not worth it, is it? It's not worth trying to, you know, engage in a fucking verbal exchange with him, or a legal exchange as well. Because Jake Paul's got money, you know, so he can afford like top lawyers. You know, he was in Forbes magazine money, you know, the rich list of under 25-year-olds. He says his net worth is $40 million. So he can afford a good defense team, you know what I mean? So Eddie Hearn, just take the fucking L, man. Just take the L and just keep moving. Because Jake Paul, you know, he's got one over on you, man. He's got your number. So just take the fucking L, man, and just keep moving, Eddie Hearn. He's doing a bit better sexually, isn't he, Jake Paul? So he's kind of taking shots at Eddie Hearn's wife, you know, calling her average. So he hasn't really got a filter, has he, Jake Paul? So I don't know. Eddie Hearn, man. You know, if he starts trying to sue Jake Paul and take him to court, you know, Eddie Hearn will get exposed, and so will Barry Hearn, you know, for his dodgy little connections. So it's not worth it, is it? But yeah, shout out to Rob Tebbert, you know, for putting it on that fucking bent judge. You know, that's what true journalism's about, innit? Trying to establish the truth. But, you know, Coogan deleting fucking videos of Jake Paul, saying Eddie Hearn's paying his judges. It's a bit of a snidey move, innit, from bent legs. Coogan's lost that fucking drug money from MTK Global. So now he's desperate to try and cling on to Eddie Hearn. You know, because Eddie Hearn's giving him 500 quid a week. So he's willing to, like, delete videos, and he's not willing to go up to judges and fucking ask them what they're playing at, scoring the fight to Joshua when he clearly got fucked up by Usyk. You know, it's a bit of fucking biasness, innit, from Coogan. You know, if it is bullshit from Jake Paul, like Eddie Hearn's saying, like, why are you deleting the video? It's almost like you've got something to hide. You know what I mean? If it was bullshit from Jake Paul, you just leave it and just dismiss it as bullshit. and just put it down to Jake Paul just being a silly little YouTuber who doesn't really know the ins and outs of boxing. You know, you just dismiss it. But, you know, telling Coogan to delete the video, it kind of seems a bit suspicious, don't it? It seems like he's got something to hide. Because, like, you know that judge as well, like, Jake Paul said that he was fucking trying to rob Serrano, you know, when she boxed Katie Taylor. He said that he tried to rob her as well. He tried to be a bit snidey, you know, favouring Eddie Hearn's fighter, Katie Taylor. That's what he said. And you know that judge as well, yeah. He was getting slandered, you know, when Manny Pacquiao fucked up Keith Thurman. You know, he knocked him down, didn't he, and just fucking convincingly beat him. But you know, that same judge, he gave it to Keith Thurman, didn't he? Did he take handouts from that promoter as well? He might just be incompetent. He might just be a fucking old, blind fucker who's going senile, you know, and we kind of seen that, you know, when he looked to his supervisor for help. It's like he's incompetent, you know, just to answer a simple question. So to score a fucking fight, yeah, you know, he's not up to the job, is he? He's fucking old as fuck. Why are these judges always old fuckers who are probably blind? They can't see the fucking punches landing. Why aren't the judges ever like young, fresh fucking men? Why not? You know, you can say, what about women? Just forget that. This isn't a woke channel, yeah. This isn't a fucking politically correct, woke fucking channel, yeah. Why aren't there any men judges who are like in their 20s, you know, scoring fights, who can see, who aren't fucking blind and senile? They always seem to be a bunch of old fucking blind cunts, don't they? Have you noticed? So then you get dodgy judges like this. So I'm not sure if he's being paid from Eddie Hearn, if he's taking bribes, or he's just dumb and he's losing his fucking marbles. He's going nuts. He's going senile. I don't know, but we need some young, fresh fucking men, you know, to be judges who are on the ball, who are alert, you know, who are paying attention, who are fucking in the right frame of mind. You know, these old fucking judges. I don't know why they're always old men, senile cunts who are blind. So yeah, he scored it to Thurman, you know, even though Pacquiao like fucked up Keith Thurman. The other judges gave it to Pacquiao, innit, but this little blind fucking senile corrupt judge, you know, he kind of gave it to Keith Thurman, didn't he? So I don't know. I don't know what the truth is, to be honest. I don't know if the judge is corrupt or he's just fucking blind and senile. Because he's old, isn't he? He's old as fuck, so I don't know. He's probably not up to the job, man. They need to just get rid of him. Stop paying him. He's like incompetent, isn't he? So, but yeah. Let me know what you think in the comments, innit? Yeah, thanks for that.